Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast. And today I got my good friend Swami Rob on. We're going to be talking starts and sits for week 2, so you definitely want to check it out. Here we go.
Listen up. It's time for the Fantasy Maverick podcast, starring the guy who's going to help you win that fantasy championship, Jimmy Maverick.
Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast, coming at you from Santa Fe, New Mexico. And with me once again is Swami Rob of the 94 Rock Morning Show. Swami, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, coming at you from lovely Albuquerque. It's a beautiful day, and so we're good.
Yeah, that's right. It's the fall, man. It's just like the perfect weather here in New Mexico. It's my favorite time of year. So I just want to remind everybody, if you haven't done so already and you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe down below. If you got any questions or comments, please leave them there. And if you're listening on podcasts, we are available on all the various places where you can get podcasts, on iTunes, on Spotify. Just search for the Fantasy Maverick podcast. You'll find us there. You can subscribe. You can listen to us there as well. So Swami, tell me about week 1. How'd it go for you?
4 leagues, 3-1 this week. And the one team that lost, I didn't notice until after I drafted, is so dreadful. It may be the worst team I've ever been a manager of fantasy-wise. And I don't care how hard I hit the waiver wire. That team will not – I'm going 0-12.
You think so, huh?
Take it to the bank. The other leagues are going good. How about you?
Well, I got to tell you, man, it was not a good week for me. I was in a situation where it did not matter how much I scored. My team scored. The other team scored more than me, and you beat me in one of the leagues where you scored like 160 points. I'm like, how am I even supposed to compete with that? But, I had a team score 152 points and lose. I'm like, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't catch a break on any games except for one. I won one, but it was a rough week 1. But I guess the consolation is that my team is mostly the highest scoring losing team in the league. I'm like in 7th place in a lot of leagues as the highest scoring 0-1 team. So I guess that's okay. It doesn't make me happy, but I'm definitely looking for a bounce back in week 2, and I think it's going to happen. So
let me make you feel better here. Okay, this is my really bad team. Would you like to hear the roster?
Sure.
Here it is. All right, now some of them are okay. I got Russell at quarterback. I got Jarvis Landry and N'Keal Harry at receiver with James Washington in there, who I had to because of an injury. I got Nick Chubb and Kerryon Johnson at running back. I got Mark Andrews at tight end, and I also had Deebo Samuel, Phillip Lindsay, and Blake Jarwin on that team, all of which are now from injury. And the waiver wire is not looking very good. That team's doomed.
Yeah, I got to tell you, man, that happened in one of my leagues also, where now 3 of my bench slots are currently injured players. And so it's like, geez, you gotta do your best. You got to get on that waiver wire. You got to work it and maybe even work a couple trades. I mean, you've got a great quarterback. You got a great tight end. Maybe you could parlay that into 2 players on do a 1-for-2 deal and try to improve some of the other aspects of your roster. Because, starting Kerryon Johnson, yikes.
I know. I really had no choice. But, I put James Washington on game day, and I got me 11 points, which is better than I expected from him. So that flukier things have happened. But, we'll figure something out.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about starts and sits this week. Last week, obviously, there was a bunch of what I call gonzo performances, outlier performances, something like Aaron Jones getting 4 touchdowns or, Raheem Mostert getting 2 touchdowns, one of which was like an 80-yard run and catch. I mean, it was, crazy stuff like that. I think it's going to settle down a bit in week 2. We got a better idea of what's going on with the rookies, how they're being utilized. And so that's going to help sort things out. So let's start with running backs. And for sits, I got a couple here. The first sit is Kenyon Drake, who's playing Washington this week. And we saw what that Washington defensive line and their front 7 just manhandled Philly. Now, I don't think Arizona's offensive line is as bad as Philly's is. Philly's offensive line is in a mess right now just because of injuries. But they got Washington got 8 sacks, 2 interceptions, and made Boston Scott stay miserable. He got 51 total yards. So it's not going to be an easy day for either Drake or Edmonds. And so I'd sit those guys if you can, for sure.
Yeah, Washington's front 7 with Kerrigan and Chase Young, right? Those, I think the Redskins at this point, based on the strength of that defense, that was not a one-week fluke. I wouldn't be surprised if, and I'm calling them the Redskins, my bad. The Washington football team,
yes,
I think is going to be much better than expected. And with as bad as Philadelphia and Dallas looked last week, it's not out of the realm of possibility for Washington to sneak up there and win a pretty weak division,
Well, I think, I'm not sold on the Washington offense, but that defense is so good that offense will not have to score that many points to achieve victories.
That's right.
For fantasy, when you're talking sacks and turnovers, man, that's how you make your money with a fantasy defense. And so I've actually gone and I picked up Washington in several leagues for this week, and I'm looking to start them against Arizona. Even though it's a high-powered, high-scoring offense in Arizona, I think they can still get the sacks and turnovers. That's going to give you fantasy points, The other guy that I'm not real keen on this week for a sit is Miles Sanders, who's still dealing with a hamstring injury, so that's problematic.
Right.
But that Philly offensive line, as I mentioned, is just really bad. They've lost so many key players to injuries, and now they're taking on the Rams. They do have it at home, and the Rams did allow Zeke 127 yards and 2 touchdowns, but I think the Cowboys offensive line is way better than the Philly offensive line right now. So this is a very problematic start for me to try to take, and even Boston Scott also is someone who I'd say just sit him this week, just because it's not. All right, Swami, we're back connected again. So let's move on to the starts for running backs this week. And I got to tell you, even though he totally did nothing last weekend, I really like Nick Chubb, who's playing Cincinnati this week.
Cincinnati, yeah.
And the thing is, man, first of all, Cincinnati defense is really nothing to worry about. But, Cleveland has to learn quick that if they want to win games, they got to feed Chubb. They got to feed him. They got to give him the ball a lot. They only gave him the ball like 10 times in last week's game, but that's because it got out of hand so quickly. And, the nature of a player like Nick Chubb, the risk is that if they fall behind in games, he's not going to be utilized. It's going to be Kareem Hunt. So they need to get Chubb involved early and often and get him working because, he was getting 6 yards per carry. I don't know why you'd stop using that. But anyway, it's neither here nor there.
I think you said it.
Choice for this week.
I think you said it. They got behind so quick they had no choice. Right. So, Cincinnati defense, that's a no-brainer. Chubb this week, and that's great because I got him in 2 leagues. So,
yeah. And also, I got to say Austin Eckler, who surprisingly underutilized in the game last week, only 1 target. But now they're playing against Kansas City. They're going to be playing from behind for most of this game. They're going to have to pass the ball a lot, and they're going to have to utilize Eckler a lot more than they did last week. So, it's going to be, Anthony Lynn. My concern with him is that he said their offensive scheme limits checkdowns to the running back. But like I said, they're going to have to utilize Eckler a lot if they want to have a chance in this game against the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let me throw another name on the heap right here. And the reason I drafted this guy in the first place in week 1, bared it out, is a lot of people forget how things went down in January last year. And I think Raheem Mostert is better than advertised and finished last year so strong. He's got the Jets this week. How does he not blow up? If you were thinking about maybe you rode the hand last week and you're putting him on the bench, you're nuts. I think he's going to maybe even do better this week.
Yeah, he recorded the fastest run time in week 1, so that's super impressive. And that team's complete lack of passing options means they're going to have to lean on the run game, and it's going to be mostly Mostert. So yeah, I think he's absolutely a start this week. I think the Jets are an 0-16 candidate this year. They are the worst.
I was thinking about this. If I'm the GM of the Jacksonville Jaguars, I might think about trading Gardner Minshew right now because he's about to screw them out of the number 1 pick if he wins 3 or 4 more games like Fitzpatrick did last year. Get rid of him now and tank.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that was the Dolphins playing last year, and they still ended up with their guy. They still got Tua.
I know. It's true.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I mean, really, the sooner they get rid of Adam Gase, the better. That's all I have to say.
Oh, that's
So,
for sure.
Let's move on to wide receivers. So my first sit for wide receivers, man, Devonta Parker playing against super tough Buffalo defense. He's dealing with a hamstring injury too. It is just like not a good situation. And you know, Preston Williams is someone who I would like more than Devonta Parker, but I don't really want to start either of them this week. I got Preston in a ton of leagues. I'm just keeping him on my bench right now. He does not need to start this week against Buffalo.
Yeah, I've got Devonta Parker in the league right now. I look forward to him coming out, but this is not the week.
Right.
You know, one guy that I'm thinking, after I watched him play Monday night, and Pittsburgh's defense looks good. They're going to be solid, but I get the feeling the Judy coming out party in Denver is about to happen. Did you see that guy running routes? That guy is a freak waiting to happen. And I bet you he has a coming out party any day now.
I'm sorry, which guy?
Judy for Denver, the receiver.
Oh yeah, well, you know, I mean, with Sutton possibly being out, that definitely helps Judy. Yeah. Although I'm not sure I would trust any rookie wide receivers at this point in the draft. I mean, you know, a couple of them had decent weeks in week one, but I'm still not ready to trust them on a week-to-week basis. So, you know, it usually takes rookies until the second half of the season, as far as wide receivers go, before they're an asset you can trust for fantasy. So, but yeah, I mean, if Sutton's out again, certainly Judy's going to be the primary receiver.
Yep. And are you going to be sitting Michael Thomas? You mentioned that, right? They say he's not playing again this week.
Well, you have to. I mean, he's not going to play. So an upper ankle sprain, man, that's what, hurt Kamara last year. It's what hurt Barkley last year. And it's just the curse of those players that have those. It's a regression curse is what I call it.
Yep.
He was due to regress anyway. But yeah, not a good situation, man. And actually, he was also listed as a sit. Obviously, when I wrote this, he had not been ruled out yet, but he's definitely out for week 2. So, try to find yourself an alternative there, which is hard because he's a first-round pick, and you don't want that to happen.
Do you start Emmanuel Sanders then, as long as Thomas is down?
Oh, yeah.
Sanders might be a better option,
Sanders. All right. If I got him, I would definitely start him for sure.
Yeah.
And one that's also a definite start for me this week would be Mike Evans. Who's playing Tampa Bay's playing Carolina this week. Last week he only got 4 targets, 1 catch for 2 yards, but it was a touchdown. So it kind of like he still wasn't a great choice for the week, but I think he's going to be utilized a lot more this week. The Carolina defense is totally suspect, a complete rebuild job, and so you got to take advantage of that. So that's
It was bittersweet last week because I started Mike Evans expecting big things from him, and he didn't do anything. On the other hand, on that very same team, the New Orleans defense got me 17 freaking points. So while I didn't get it from Evans, the New Orleans defense, with their performance of him, kind of made up for it a little bit,
Yeah, that defense is good, man. I mean, they're going to be good for fantasy this year. Other start would be Marvin Jones of Detroit, who's playing Green Bay. And, of course, we got Golladay dealing with his hamstring injury. But, you saw what, someone like Adam Thielen did to that he did to that defense in garbage time. But still, it seems like it's going to be a garbage time game for Detroit, and they're going to be throwing the ball a lot as they normally have to. So Marvin Jones is the healthiest option for receivers on that team, so he's a definite start for me.
So do we know Galladay's not playing or not? He's still questionable, right?
He's still questionable. He hasn't been ruled one way or the other right now. Even if he's healthy, boy, I'm not sure I would want to start him.
Right.
You almost kind of need to in the team in the leagues where you took him because he's like a 2nd-round pick or a 3rd-round pick. So we just got to wait and see on that one.
I don't know about you though, but you were talking about garbage time, and garbage time is one of my favorite times as a fantasy owner, man.
Oh,
you catch up quick. So
garbage time screwed me in so many games this week. I mean, I was like the Kansas City Houston game. I was so happy because I was playing Deshaun Watson in several leagues, and he had like 5 fantasy points going into the 4th quarter, and then of course he gets those 2 touchdowns. One he rushes in. And he ended up with a line that was just like as expected for him for the week. And so it destroyed my advantage in that league. It really it makes me angry, man, when that happens.
Yeah.
When you're on the receiving end, when you're on the receiving end of garbage time. So anyway, so tight ends, I don't have a lot of sits for tight ends. The only one I can confidently say you need to sit is Gronkowski, man. 3 targets in week 1 is just not going to do it. OJ Howard appears to be the lead tight end in that backfield. OJ Howard got 6 targets, which is marginal at best, but still worth considering as a start. But yeah, Gronk is there as a decoy, man. He's only going to have a marginal role in that offense.
Yeah. Now, as far as tight ends go, we've seen some injuries, and so I was able to pick up Jonnu Smith on the waiver wire this week, who looked all right. But here's a question for you: Austin Hooper, who I have as a backup, is playing for Cleveland, and Mayfield looked like crap last week. I'm not sure Hooper is going to be as productive in Cleveland as he was in Atlanta. However, Adam Schefter's reporting today that the Browns are looking to deal OBJ for a second-round pick, and if they get that, suddenly Hooper's going to get more touches, so maybe he is a decent option.
Yeah, that would be interesting, and also the fact that Njoku is now on IR is really going to help as well. Njoku got like 3 or 4 targets, and so hopefully those would ease their way towards Austin Hooper. And actually, he's next on my list for a start. Austin Hooper, man. Again, it's the Cincinnati defense, and with the Njoku being out, that means we're going to see better volume towards Austin Hooper. And so I think he's a start this week. He's a good choice for this week. 2 straight years with Njoku after week 1 going out on injured reserve, man. I know, man.
Last year too.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't draft him in any of my leagues. Even in my deep league, he was there on the board, and I'm like, nah, I'm not going to bother.
Yep, pass, exactly.
Yeah. So my other start is, we already talked about him. OJ Howard, it is a risky play to start a Tampa Bay tight end because there's 3 receiving tight ends on that team, but Howard appears to be the primary one. Carolina allowed 8 receptions by Darren Waller in week 1. So, there's a good opportunity for Howard here. And I certainly like him for week 2.
What's Cameron Brake got to do to get a break? Because Howard's the main guy, and Gronkowski's going to be the marquee name. Brake's like, what's the guy got to do to get some love here?
He's got to request a trade is what he needs to do, man.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yep.
So now quarterbacks, man. I got some quarterbacks here. You're not going to like because I know you've got him in one of your leagues, but Kyler Murray is a sit for me this week, playing Washington, who, again, just totally blew up Carson Wentz. And, Kyler did great against the San Francisco defense, but the San Francisco defense is different than the Washington defense. I'm just seeing that there's going to be a lot of pressure on Kyler Murray all day this week. And so he's a risky bet for me for sure.
I don't have Kyler Murray, actually. The guy you're playing this week does, but I agree with you. Yeah, Washington's going to shut him down. Conversely, they'd probably be that way for DeAndre Hopkins, too. He's not going to get it. He'll not look as good.
Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins, I was saying all during the offseason, I'm like, there is no way that DeAndre Hopkins is going to maintain his 30% target share in that offense. There's no way it's going to happen. And what does he do? He gets a 40% target share last week. I was just like, I just couldn't believe it. But
dude is so good, man. Bill O'Brien, what the hell was he thinking? Because I've thought DeAndre Hopkins was a top 3 receiver before he went to Arizona, but this just confirms it. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the guy is quarterback proof. That's the thing. He can play with quarterback and be super productive. But still, and Christian Kirk, who was like, I got him in one of my leagues, but he was a guy like, he's probably a good mid-round target. He got 1 target last week.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
This isn't fair. You can't get everything to Hopkins. Spread the ball around a little bit, Murray. But, it's the new toy. He's got to play with the new toys.
Yep. That's right.
The other one, the other quarterback who I really don't like this week, man, Cam Newton. I do not trust him this week. Last week he was a start for me because of the plus matchup against a bad Miami team. But now they are at Seattle. And, I just see they're going to put tremendous pressure on Cam Newton because really he is the only running asset in that backfield. And if they can shut down the run, they're going to completely shut down Cam's game on Sunday. So I would bench Cam this week if you got him.
Yeah, and if you're Aaron Donald, you're licking your chops at Carson Wentz right now with that offensive line too. If you're thinking about starting Wentz this week, you're freaking nuts.
Yeah, if you got the Rams defense, definitely start them for sure.
Yep.
But as far as starts go for this week, I really like Matthew Stafford playing against Green Bay again. It's going to be a negative game script. It's going to be a ton of passing. And so it's going to be, like what Kirk Cousins had to do last week in the second half against Green Bay once it was already blown out. It's going to be a garbage time special. So I think Stafford's a great choice for fantasy for this week.
Yeah. I'm with you. I've got Stafford starting on a couple teams. Matter of fact, I've got Stafford and Aaron Rodgers as backups in a couple of leagues to Russell Wilson because Russell Wilson's my starter on 3 of my teams. I'm thinking there's my trade chips right there.
Yeah, you could definitely trade away one of those. I unless it's a super deep league, like 8 or more bench slots, I usually only roster one quarterback.
Yeah, it's smart.
Because I just don't need to waste the bench space. I need to fill those bench spaces with running backs and wide receivers. And I think the guy I'm playing this week, that Zeke and Destroy player, I think he's rostering 3 quarterbacks. I'm like, why do you have 3? You don't.
No, that's Sandy. That's Sandy's team. Sandy, what's your problem, dude? Wake up.
I'm calling you out, Sandy. You don't need to roster 3 quarterbacks. It's not that hard a position to replace if anything happens to your league guy. But my final start for quarterbacks is Ben Roethlisberger against Denver. Who, again, the Denver defense took a big hit with Von Miller lost for the season. I believe Chubb is still out. And so Tannehill just went nuts yesterday, 43 pass attempts on Monday night. He only ended up with 249 yards and 2 TDs, but Roethlisberger's better than that. So I think it's going to be a big game. It's a home game also. Roethlisberger's a great start for this week for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Bradley Chubb did play this last week, and I think with Von Miller out on the other side, he didn't look nearly as effective. So no doubt. So anyway, so that's my starts and sits this week. Also another one I think I want to mention is Benny Snell, man. If Connor, I was just going to ask you about him. I picked him up in another league on the waiver wire. All right. I got Benny Snell in a ton of leagues because I play a lot of deep leagues. So 20 drafts and stuff, and I think I got him in like 5 of my leagues, and he was just a great pick because I knew that Connor's reliability wasn't there. Connor just didn't stay healthy. And we saw what Snell did once he came in for relief, man, 110 yards. That was awesome. So, he looked good. If we got to wait to see what happens with Connor. Is he going to be active or are they going to keep him out? It's an ankle injury. So I'm thinking he's going to be out this week, but if he's out, you could definitely start Benny Snell for sure. If Snell has another big week this week, Connor kind of dropped off after that first year. If I'm Mike Tomlin, I might think about getting Benny Snell more touches anyway. One more question I got for you. What's the name of the kid that took over from Marvin Mack? Naeem Hicks, is that his name? Oh, yeah. Hines. Oh, Hines, thank you. What are your thoughts on him? Because I'm thinking he might actually end up he's going to be a benefactor here. Oh, yeah. I tried to get him in a bunch of leagues because he was sitting on the waiver wire. I didn't get him in any of my leagues. I put bids out on him. I mean, again, it's Phil Rivers, the uninspiring, old man Rivers, doing what he did, back in, I was going to say San Diego, but no, for the Chargers, he utilizes he checks down to his running backs and he feeds a lot of passes to his running backs. 15 pass attempts to both Jonathan Taylor and Naeem Hines last week. Expect that to continue. That's how he plays. And so, Hines is a great pick. And if you already had him on your bench, I think you could start him. I think for sure, especially if it's PPR, especially for that. Nice. All right, cool, man. So anyway, thanks everybody for joining us today. And, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And good luck in week 2. I'm hoping it's going to be a better week 2 for me for sure. But good luck to you too, Swami. Bam, boom.